the year with a podcast about economic updates, conspiracy theories, and of course, Jeffrey Epstein. So, I hope everyone is having a splendid holiday season. People in the Central Valley, we've been battling this radiation fog, which I have noticed it's been pretty foggy as of lately, but I don't think it's anything out of the Like, I feel like we've had fog here for a while, like valley and the cold air, the moisture, whatever the process is. So I don't know, like, what the fuck is going on with this thing called radiation fog. I'm seeing like both sides. Like, I'm unfortunately the where I'm at with my feed and where I get my sources, it's like, you know, like like I'll get some scientific explanation on it and it sounds pretty sound, and then I'll see something else where there's like a hidden report about a patent on this device that was used in some time, and it was linked to what's happening now, and someone got fucking killed about it. And I don't know, but needless to say, I'm hoping everyone is having a wonderful winter holiday season. I think how I kind of want to start everything off is on the stock market. I think, well, okay. My name is Shamoot, by the way. I am a real estate agent, amateur market research analyst in the housing and financial markets. I am an author, and have started businesses here and there, ranging from uh, like financial services, physical products, as well as drop shipping and all that kind of fun stuff. Um, so the biggest question, or like the most frequent question that I get on social media, which you should follow me. It's EstateVerse is my real estate finance page, or Shamoot with two zeros is my personal. If you're looking into more of the horror and creative aspect of myself, but the question I get a lot more frequent than straight up housing questions is just on the stock market in general, on what to invest, how to invest. And I think, man, you know, when you grew up 10, 20, probably it's probably closer to like 15, 20 years ago, there's like a process of how you're supposed to invest in yourself and your portfolio. It's a lot of, when you're younger, you're more aggressive. You put it into more risky, quote unquote, stocks that can either give you great returns over the years, or you don't get great returns and you put it in something else. But the point is, you have time to try the risk and fail, and then try again and succeed before you die, or so you live long enough so that you can use the money. So it's typically broken up, where you see a lot of people putting some investment money into straight up stocks and big index funds, ETFs, the big blue chip companies that have been reliable and have proven performance over the years. And then you put some in like US bonds, you put some in a savings account, if you still believe in those, with institutional bankers, or you find a high yield savings account, you put some in there, you buy gold, silver, precious metals, and that's kind of how you broke it up. But the point is that you weren't so risky. It wasn't really something people were like, oh, let's go into the market to get rich. But with I'd say like the digitization of the markets, and the how lucrative it is with derivative products and leverage trading, that just make it into this incredibly uh, just like sickening ass product that is a contagion and can cause a massive failure across the board. So what all that is saying is, we've never been in an environment like this, where people are just accustomed to 100, 200% gains 1,000%. They, like Wall Street bets and everything that has happened post GameStop and AMC has really pushed the markets to a new psychology, I'd say, where it's not cool or it's not baseline to take a 15% gain and call it a day. It's kind of looking for something more to fill that void and that dopamine hit, to be quite honest with you. So it's like the stuff that I have been saying, man, if you have rocked with me since 2016, 2017, when I got out of college, I've been telling everyone the same thing every single time, is just put a little bit every day into the safe stocks, into where the companies are too big to fail, a phrase coined after the great financial crisis. You want to essentially, like, it's bro, like, it's at the end of the day, we're in a corrupt capitalist end stage capitalistic society, and the only way that you are going to persevere and ultimately maintain your current wealth and future projected goals is to align your money where it is the safest, and it is in the safest where other corrupted politicians, Wall Street money is parking. So looking at where banking institutions are buying and selling, and aligning with those companies that have great government ties, who's fucking giving gold bars to Trump, who is on an international scale and domestically so intertwined into the infrastructure that if anything negative were to happen to them, there would have to be a government intervention. That's really the easiest way that I can put it, is just putting it aligned, just putting your money where corrupted, you know, individuals and companies and entities do theirs. So, it's as simple as just putting it, and that's not, it's kind of like over kind of level speaking, but simple things like the S&P 500, the VU, like index funds that have a good mix of the top traded companies. But it's also one thing to take into account of just how concentrated our markets are. We have the Mag 7. We have these stocks that essentially, if anything were to go wrong with them, it would have a detrimental effect, across the board, where the entire backbone of the economy is based on these companies doing well. So it's something to really look into when it comes to investing. That's kind of how I play it, and obviously you want to divide it up. You want some in stocks, you want in crypto, you want in high yield savings account, you want in precious metals. I think just having a good variety into proven assets that can perform. And I know that's kind of, it's to say that and then say invest in cryptocurrency is like is doesn't, it's like doesn't make any sense. But the reason being is that you can see very clearly with the right sources that institutional money has been buying and is still buying cryptocurrency, and they do see a long-term store of value with it. And that's why you see companies like BlackRock, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Fidelity, Charles Schwab all open up more ways for their clients to get exposure into cryptocurrency. The key point for cryptocurrency specifically is kind of the same when it comes to stocks, of doing daily purchases, but you really want to do more limit purchases when it comes to cryptocurrencies so that you can take advantage of those dips. So for example, this last month with Bitcoin, we saw it drop from around the 100,000 mark, all the way down to about 82,000. So I had limit orders set all the way down to about 83,000, and that was before the drop. So all of my orders got filled. I still do my daily buys, but those limit orders is where I just let them be and just sit and wait until something were to happen in the market. So if we take a look at the chart here, it's on a weekly scale with Bitcoin. some of the indicators that I specifically look for when it comes to any trends in the market and kind of just what to expect, which again, no one can time the market, no one can predict what the fuck is going to happen, but based on technical analysis, it's better to just have at least some kind of sense of direction. So when it comes to cryptocurrency as a whole, or specifically on Bitcoin, we can see the two main indicators that I use are here the MACD, um, and below that the on balance volume, the OBV. And these are pretty great tools to kind of check momentum and see if we have any more juice to get to where we need to be, or if there's going to be continued downtrend. So based on the screen, clearly downtrend, we can see on the MACD that it looks like the momentum of selling is easing up, which this shaded yellow area is kind of where I had my ideal purchases, which ranges from 76,400 to 68,500. And that's kind of the range where I would be more aggressively purchasing. Overall, my whole perspective on cryptocurrency is that it is here to stay, and we probably will see higher prices, um, based on a number of factors, ranging from inflation to institutional purchases to supply and demand to essentially the eroding of the US dollar and looking for something as a more viable store of value. And just overall, I just don't see us not moving more into a more digital age. And I think it's just over time that it just would make more sense to have some over encompassing cryptocurrency in a digital platform that meshes very well, once we get to that next stage of human advancement. It essentially comes down to transhumanism, uh, and how far we allow the top elitists to push that bar, and see how far we can take that into, uh, I guess, just further quote unquote advancements. So I think overall we do see some more weakness when it comes to Bitcoin. My more aggressive bear market case is down over here around 49,500 to 41,000. Sounds pretty scary, but it's just something just to kind of set it and leave it. Overall, my long term is something that's north of 10, 15 years. So this is all something that I'm not really too worried about. It's not something that I'm looking to cash in on anytime soon. It's something that I'm just continuously building positions on and finding great value purchases. But essentially, I think anything under 100,000 is a value buy. So that's kind of my perspective on Bitcoin as a whole. When you take into account Bitcoin and other macro dynamics like the Fed cutting interest rates, that obviously has a bullish indicator for cryptocurrency, and generally assets across the board. So because we're in a point where, as of recently, government data has shown, government data, which is like not including a lot of October, November inputs, but inflation is well below expectations, below the 3% mark, I believe, for core PCE, which is the main metric that the Fed uses to indicate where inflation is. So if that is below their threshold, if they're already looking to reduce interest rates, and unemployment is going up, which is at 4.6%, these are all these are essentially all key points that the Fed will use to justify interest rate cuts, because essentially now, with their dual mandate of price stability and maximum employment, if unemployment is going up, they have to then reduce rates to stop unemployment from going up. And until we see a resurgence of inflation, which I believe that will happen sometime in the warmer months, once we start getting more government data, and other aspects that will be taken into account, I think we do see kind of a reinflation in the spring, summer time. However, at that point, I think unemployment will still continuously go higher. So the Fed is going to continuously be in a tough situation where they're going to be battling resurging inflation as well as an uptick in unemployment. So these are all things that happen after we go through an economic cycle and we start shifting gears from a tighter policy to a looser monetary policy. So these are kind of the tailwinds that we're going to feel and kind of find more clarity as we move on with the markets. But that's kind of what I'm seeing with Bitcoin on the screen. So Jeffrey Epstein. So where the fuck to even begin with disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein? So if you've been following along, no matter what point you've joined in on the lore and the fucking insanity of everything from just his convictions to his relationships domestically to his relationships internationally and his relationships within the intelligence community as well as the top research institutes. So I saw a, I saw a, I mean, before we get to that point, the whole story with Jeffrey Epstein has been in circulation since probably around 2010s. Um, it never really uh, could grasp the attention on a mass scale because of how fucking atrocious it sounded and uh, just how connected every single person was with Epstein in some way, shape, or form in a compromising manner. And the fact that they knew what kind of individual that he was is even more damning when you see after his conviction in Miami in the late 2000s, 2008, 2009, or some shit like that, 2013, so like around there. People still continue to hang out with him, like Bill Gates and other prominent politicians around the world, as well as finance institutions, Deutsche Bank, for example, and Alan Dershowitz, who was his legal attorney and continued to work with him after the fact. Really crazy stuff, but I think just because of how insane everything sounded from like a international human trafficking ring that involved children. It's like, how do you. There's like not even a way to explain this without making yourself look crazy. Like, and that's kind of where I've been at for a few years. I really dove into it in 2019 when he got arrested, or no, sorry, when 2017, and then when he suicided in 2019. So one kind of stepping stone into how I got into the whole rabbit hole of Epstein was from it was a YouTuber, but then he got banned, and he did some really good work when it comes to the trafficking rings. His name is Mouthy Buddha, and I believe if you just Google him or DuckDuckGo him, Mouthy Buddha Pedogate. Um, he has like a 3-part series that really breaks down the people involved in a lot of these rings and how they're connected to very prominent politicians and people that you wouldn't expect to be in these kind of social circles. So that was kind of my intro into it and kind of just led down the whole hole of, his fixation on immortality, his, the way that he how his starting foundation was and how he got the connections that he did, the intelligence agency connections and the billionaires and these people that he would have the ability to manage their money and offer tax advice, even though he had no kind of educational background for handling those kind of vast amounts of money. But they just all hired this one guy, and there's just all this it's like at some point I don't know how people don't believe what is being said. Like all the conspiracies about him being, trafficking children, putting other people in compromising positions, like a fucking island that he fully controls, has cameras all over, which have been proven. And getting these people to basically do sexual acts with these minors. Like, that's literally the whole game. It's not, these guys are not brilliant, they are not geniuses. It's all very straight, cut and dry, and that's what it was. It was a honeypot. This dude is a literal Mossad agent, maybe a double agent with the KGB or the CIA or MI6. His father-in-law, well, not father-in-law, but technically his like quote unquote father-in-law, because him and Ghislaine Maxwell were never married. But that was Ghislaine's father, and Robert Maxwell was a literal MI6 secret agent, or with double agent or secret agent, one of the two. Regardless, he is involved with MI6. He owned an entire news conglomerate in um, New England or Britain, wherever the fuck out there in UK. And all of a sudden, his daughter is connected with Epstein, and they have all of these social gatherings, these connections. He brings them in, or she brings them in, and he makes the connections, puts them in compromising positions, and now, it's essentially like now the information can be used by a foreign body. I think we all know who we're talking about, and to utilize that to blackmail our elected officials to do the bidding of, who put it in motion, or who is controlling the information. So it's like, oh, it's like, again, to the point of like, how do we not kind of come to these same conclusions on what's going on with Epstein? But it's like, oh man, they're doing some crazy shit out in the Middle East that we just, would have never imagined happening. Why aren't we doing anything? Like, why aren't we doing anything there? Why aren't we doing anything like at all to stop that? And it's like, well, blackmail. So it's like, obviously Trump is in the documents. They've recently removed one of the released files this past weekend of December 19th, 20th. They released something with his information on there, his photos and whatever, but they removed it from the DOJ when they released the documents. But there's just no shortage of creepy shit, man. Like, this dude was connected with high net worth individuals, blackmailed them, and elected officials the same. It's just the difference is one funneled money to keep the operation going, the other makes the decisions of the person that put everything in motion, which is a international governing body or intelligence agency. It's one of the two. Someone had to hire this fucker. He put everything in motion. So it's like, all of these things are interconnected, and until you really go down the rabbit hole of like what is going on across the board, you really don't understand it all. So everything just sounds fucking insane, and that's kind of where everyone is at right now. I feel it's like, I saw a tweet which I have here, and I think it kind of sums it up, because it's like, I see like anything at this point that I see, I'm not gonna be surprised. Like, I'm just waiting for Zorro Ranch. I'm waiting for, Ghislaine and all the crazy shit that she was doing with like the Terra Mar project, and all of these other people that are like, these pages are super redacted. We don't know really what's going on. So I just don't feel like I'm ever going to be surprised. But nonetheless, like, now that it's being brought to light, you see a lot of people now really, I don't even know what it's called. Like, it's like red pilled, or like, I don't even think that's the case for something like an Epstein. Like, there's a different kind of like colored pill for that, which is, I don't even know what it is. But essentially, like, that transition from, oh, like everyday discourse, there's no way there's an international fucking pedophile trafficking ring, to like afterwards, and like adjusting to that's the reality that we're in. The tweet is, I feel like the Jeffrey Epstein that been built up over the years across our internet zeitgeist with jokes and memes has kind of numbed people to the fact that this was a real man who actively trafficking and raping children of all ages for decades. So I mean, yeah, it's kind of like numb to the fact of this crazy shit that's been happening, and we still haven't really like fully grasped how just how like comical, like just like cartoonish this is. You know, it's like you would have never imagined something like this would be able to get to this kind of scale. Um, so it's just insane. So nonetheless, when it comes to Epstein, I would say if you want to kind of start of the rabbit hole, you can start with the Mouthy Buddha 3-part series. You can find it online somewhere. But other if you're more of a reader, you can look at Whitney Webb's there's a Blackmail. Yeah, there's 2 volumes. I have it on my bookshelf. I'm trying to see what it is, but it's called like Blackmail. There's 2 volumes. She goes super in depth about it on like the connections and just kind of the inner wirings of his circles and how he came to be and all these other crazy, like objectives that he had that we haven't really scratched the surface on. Again, like the transhumanism, the what he was doing in Zorro Ranch, his own scientific studies, and just some stuff that we haven't really scratched the surface on. So, um, yeah, that's like the whole thing with Epstein. So hopefully we see some more things happen with him in terms of releases, but I don't know, man. It's pretty sad what is going on. Just like with people that are like that, like that's like part of humanity, unfortunately. If you haven't already known, I'm also an author of a horror psychological horror novel called Wonderland Dreams of Nightmares. Um, I've sold all of the first editions out. We're over 600 copies sold. We're on to our second editions. So I'm really grateful for all of the people that I've met along the way at the Barnes and Noble signings that I've done in Stockton, Dublin, Brentwood, Arden Fair in Sacramento, Modesto, and aiming to hopefully have some signings in the Bay Area. But at this point, I'm aiming to adapt Wonderland into a screenplay so that I can pitch them to movie producers. While that's happening, I'm working on a short as well, making that into a short screenplay to pitch to these producers. I'm in a pretty unique position at this moment in life. I'm expecting the birth of my son probably sometime this week. So a lot of things are happening. We also just purchased a home in our hometown. So a lot of things happened this year, from uh, doing book signings to having a baby to buying a house to essentially doing this kind of podcast and getting more content going. So um, that's kind of what I'm aiming to do now, is to kind of convert things into a screenplay format to pitch to these producers and see if there's something that we can do in terms of making it into a feature film. I've also worked on a trailer for a concept on another horror short called Lucy's Diner. I did post some things on social media about that and the story, and essentially the same kind of objective of kind of showing what we can do in the Central Valley with our surroundings, our talent, and pitch a minimum viable product to these investors so that we can ultimately achieve more funding and build something on a larger scale. So those are kind of what I'm working on right now, as well as some other works in progress, a sci-fi thriller, as well as some other horror stories that I'm hoping that I'll get some time to write and get through. But nonetheless, it's been an incredible experience with being out there, just kind of showing people what Wonderland is all about and seeing how it resonates with a lot of individuals. So I'm hoping just to keep that momentum going onward. If you're looking to purchase a home, there's a lot of talk of like when you should buy and all that kind of stuff. And kind of one of the cliche answers that I've seen now, and I think it's a cliche now, is like buy when you're ready. Like duh, motherfucker, you're not really like as Aristotle here talking like something new. Like obviously, when you're able to buy, that's when you should buy. But when you are looking at housing as a whole, specifically in the Central Valley, um, there's really no uh, in good locations, and basic structures of the home. If you align those two, it's very hard to lose in real estate. Because, for one, the affordability is never going to subside in a positive way for the buyer, because we're going to have perpetual inflation. We're going to continuously have bureaucratic tape when it comes to developing of homes. That's never going to change. I'm sorry. Well, we can vote all we want, but ultimately there's a reason why things have been done a certain way for the past fucking how many decades. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of a cynic in that aspect. So I would rather just focus on yourself. And when you are able to pull the trigger, you should, just because real estate is a generational wealth builder and somewhere that you can essentially put your cash and your money into something of an appreciating asset. You should look at purchasing a home as an investment. It's not something that you just buy and then you're losing money. It's something where you're storing that money into the home, paying it down, building that equity. Don't make any stupid decisions on the home. Only make big upgrades to the home that will benefit the next buyer, or something that will be looked upon as an upgrade. For example, like, you know, even like small things like counter handles, water softener, concrete, things like that. Things that would up the value and that are justified. Just tack on 200% when you decide to sell. That's what everyone else does. So that's a great way to recoup your money, and think of it in that kind of way. Um, we are in a moment in the economic cycle where they are going to be cutting interest rates. They're writing it, graffitiing it, they are etching it like hieroglyphs onto the wall. They are going to be cutting interest rates. It's up to you to decide on how you want to capitalize on said interest rate cuts. When rates go down, asset prices are boosted because the flow of money is easier, which means people can borrow, institutions can lend money. All of this becomes more smooth. You can think of rate cuts as like lotion. It makes this flow of money smooth when there's cuts. And now that we're moving away from a tightening economic cycle, quantitative tightening, and moving into QE, we are going to see the same thing happen where interest rates come down, assets boost up in prices, and we will see a resurgence of inflation. When that happens, assets get further boosted in prices. So the whole point is, when you see that going to happen, you need to start adjusting your economic plan to capitalize on that monetary change. So ultimately, I would talk with the lender. That's the number one thing you want to do when you get into real estate. Don't look at houses. Don't talk to a real estate. Don't talk to me. Don't, like, no. Go, well, I mean, you can talk to me and find a lender, but you want to start with a lender to first get pre-qualified. You want to find out what the fuck is it going to take for you to buy a home. What is the cash to close, meaning your down payment, your closing costs, and whatever fuck else you have to pay, so that the deed gets transferred from the seller's name to your name. That is your cash to close. So you're going to want to figure out what all that is before you start shopping around and then get heartbroken when you find a house that you love and then you find out, oh fuck, I cannot afford that, or I don't have enough for a down payment. So the first thing you want to do is talk to a lender so that you can figure out where you're financially at. If there's something that you need to fix about your profile so that you can get a lower interest rate, or if you need to save up an additional amount on a monthly basis so that you can have a certain amount for your down payment. These are all questions that you need to answer before you get out there and look at a home. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. Once you get all of that figured out, then you can start shopping around with a real estate agent, going over your goals. Are you looking to buy something and then turn into a rental? Are you looking to buy something, fix it up, and then sell it and then go back to renting? Are you looking to buy something, build an ADU, rent both of them out, refinance, take your money and buy something new, what have you? There are different scenarios and different tactics that you can use to achieve your goal, but you need to first figure out the financial aspects of everything. So When it comes to purchasing something in real estate, you obviously want, well, not obviously, but you want to buy in the colder seasons because that's when there's less buyers in the market, there's less demand, so sellers are more lenient. They are able to offer credits, they may be able to offer a discounted price because they know that the wintertime there's not as many buyers and they want to sell. When it comes to the spring, summertime, that's when school is out, summer break is here, what have you. So that's when most of the people are out buying, and that's why you see prices appreciate more quickly in the spring, summertime, and that's why you see more homes being sold during that time. So that's if you're looking to enter the market, that's the areas timeline wise during the year where you want to attack. And when it comes to figuring out that first step, that's where you want to start. But overall, Central Valley, San Joaquin County, these areas are going to continue to appreciate. I know you're not supposed to say that, but if you look at the price points of the surrounding area of where the inflow of the home buyers are coming from, it's from the Bay Area. So you just need to compare the average sales price and the value of the home purchase in the Central Valley versus the Bay Area. What do you get for $1 million in the Bay Area? What do you get for $1 million in the Central Valley? Let's be more specific. What do you get for $1 million in San Jose? What do you get for $1 million in Manteca? It's just the commute you really have to work on. A lot of people are work from home. A lot of people don't give a fuck about the commute as long as they're making great amount of money and not spending so much on their housing expense. So until that is evened out, you're gonna see continued demand in the Bay Area or in the Central Valley, and if you see continued demand in the Central Valley, you will see continued upward price pressure. And I don't think it is until we see the 1 million average housing price mark for the Central Valley before we really see a slowdown in price appreciation. Lathrop in general has been seeing about a 1 to 3% appreciation over the past 3-4 years, not taking into account COVID and the year after COVID, where it was like 60% and 30%. Those are extreme outliers. Typically, 1 to 3% is extremely healthy. It's very positive in a housing market. And that's kind of tying back to earlier on in this podcast where I said everyone is expecting those like double digit kind of profits and takeaways. But this is what the standard has always been. So it's something to be positive about and see great things to happen in the future when it comes to housing in the Central Valley, specifically Lathrop. So if you do have any questions about the market forecasting for San Joaquin, Stanislaus, Sacramento, Contra Costa counties, feel free to reach out. But aside from that, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it. I think I've been talking for quite a while. It's been a pleasure to be able to finally do this. You made it to the end. You're my best friend, so thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next one.